to our online service today, of the online service of the gathering of Northern Hills. We especially want to welcome our guest speaker, Reverend Elizabeth Nguyen, who we'll talk more about in just a few minutes. There are several announcements. I would like to draw your attention to the announcements, so please do take a look at them. But there are several that I'd like to highlight. Um, a few weeks or maybe months ago, there was an announcement of an online course, Beloved Conversations. And we'd like to know if anybody has taken, is taking, or will be taking this course. If you are, have, or will, would you please contact Doug or Sean Harris and let them know? We also, I'd like to call your attention to next Sunday's online service, where Sue Klein will be our speaker, and she will speak about art and meaning in her life in a spiritual way. We are in the need of volunteers to help with gardening, weeding, and spreading mulch and or mowing. So our gardening team of Ann Bobinick, Sally Ann Killian, and Marcia Friedoff have been hard at work updating our memorial garden and grounds. So, and Lindsay Johnson is going to organize a mulch spreading Saturday in May. So please contact Doug or one of these people and sign up and join them. The National UU is doing a common read program. They do this every year. And this year, the book is Breathe, A Letter to My Sons by Imani Perry. So there'll be a series of 3 Zoom book discussions on Fridays, May 7th, 14, and 21, at 10:30 to noon, and repeating on those Fridays from 7 to 8:30. So please, let's see, to receive a link to the Zoom, register by May 1st, and there is an address where you can register, and it's in the announcements. So please look for that. The Free Store Food Bank donation is doubling now through next Wednesday, April 21st. So it's double your donation time, where benefactors promise to double every donation made. So if this would be a great time to give a donation to the Free Store. Finally, I could have maybe linked this with our need of volunteers, but we are going to have our first internment in 21 years in the Memory Garden. This would be a wonderful time to begin GNH will begin a Memorial Garden Fund, and this would be a wonderful time to contribute to that. So please, if you can and you'd like to, send a check to the church and indicate that it is for the Memorial Garden.
And Debbie, just real quickly, people can make a donation in memory of a loved one if they would like for our Memorial Garden, and your loved one will be honored in a way that the board has not yet determined.
Thanks, Doug. You may have noticed as you logged on today that it was a little bit different, and that you would be unmuted by the host. There is a possibility that we could be Zoom bombed. And that's the reason why we are operating this way this week. It will not be this way all the time, but we are kind of on the lookout, and we're going to be extra careful. So thank you for your understanding. So let's start our service this morning with the lighting of the chalice.
Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy. purple flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy.
Now Michael will play our opening hymn, Freedom is Coming.
This is one that we used to do a long time ago. It's one of my absolute favorites, and I don't know that I've actually ever done this at the church since I've been the music director. But I really hope you guys will sing along because it's really fun and it's very easy to catch on to. And I had a lot of fun doing this. So, Freedom is Coming. Hold on just a second here.
Oh freedom, oh freedom, oh freedom, freedom is coming. Oh freedom, oh freedom, oh freedom, freedom is coming. Oh freedom, oh freedom, oh freedom, freedom is coming. Oh yes, oh freedom, oh freedom, oh freedom, freedom is coming. Oh yes, I know. Oh yes, I know. Oh yes, I know. Freedom is coming. Oh yes, I know. Oh yes, I know. Oh yes, I know. Freedom is coming. Oh yes, I know. Freedom is coming. Freedom is coming. Freedom is coming. Oh yes, I know. Freedom is coming. Freedom is coming. Freedom is coming. Oh yes, I know. Justice. Yes, justice. Yes, justice. Justice is coming. Oh yes, I know. Justice. Yes, justice. Yes, justice. Justice is coming. Oh yes, I know. Yes, I know. Yes, I know. Freedom is coming. Oh yes, I know. Yes, I know. Yes, I know. Freedom is coming. Oh yes, I know.
Please join if you are willing and able in our unison affirmation. We pledge to create a welcoming community that celebrates human diversity, encourages spiritual growth, fosters responsiveness to our world, and commits to the future of all children.
Michael, I loved Freedom is Coming. That will really get us going. I'd love you to add that to our repertoire.
Yeah, it's a great one. Yeah.
Yes. It's now time for another video. This one is the reading of a poem, We Are Worthy, by Alondria Williams, who is the poet and is reading it. And she is deceased. And yet we do have this video. So this was chosen by Reverend Nguyen, and I will ask Michael to play it.
Hi, my name is Alondria Williams, a longtime member of Tennessee Valley UU Church, and I'm happy to share a poem with you I wrote called We Are Worthy. We are worthy, not because of what we produce, but because of who we are. We are divine bodies of light and darkness. You are not worthy because of what you offer, not because of what is in your mind, not for the support you give others, nor what you give at all. We are worthy and whole just because. In this great turning, in this great pandemic, in this radical readjustment and realignment, we are not disposable, we are needed. We are the very people that have withstood everything that has been thrown at us. And as Maya Angelou would say, still I rise. We arise from the pain. We rise from the grief. We rise from the limits people put on us and the limits we place on ourselves. We rise to be the children and the ancestors. We rise to be our true selves in relationship to our families and communities, recognizing our liberating and whole selves, honoring them and others as we strive for abundant communities, abundant lives, abundant relationships, and abundant values and cultural manifestations. You are worthiness personified. I, you, and we are worthy and desire a life where we are not fighting for our very existence. Imagine what we create if we were not always in the struggle. Imagine what we could envision if we were just allowed and just let be to go there. So tired of always having to resist, to fight, demanding, and pushing. To everyone that has the courage, the power, the ability to co-create what we want and need while rooting in what we cannot lose and who we are. You are the visionary. You are the hope. You are our ancestors' dreams. No, you might not ever end up on a list somewhere, but you are on a list in someone's heart and mind. And it's how you move in the world so people can see by example. You are the embodiment of what we need. The embodiment not of productivity, but the embodiment of radical love, care, and sanctuary. It's time. Embodiment time. Embodiment. Living one's values out loud. Let me every day live my values out loud. Let us every day live our values out loud. Embodying our values. Not the productivity quotient, beyond productivity, past productivity, true embodiment, life.
I'm so glad to have heard that poem read by the poet. And I thank Reverend Nguyen for bringing that to us. And now I would like to introduce our guest speaker, Reverend Elizabeth Nguyen, who is brought to us through our friends, Richard and Marcia Venus. Richard was Reverend Nguyen's minister when she was a young woman at Miami Valley UU Church. And so it's through their friendship, their long friendship, that we have Reverend Nguyen with us today. And so we thank them. And without further ado, I will introduce Reverend Elizabeth Nguyen for her message, Soar and Strong.
Thank you so much, Debbie, and so good to be able to worship with you all this morning from Boston, Massachusetts, where I live. And it does my heart and spirit good to sing with you all, to light a chalice with you all, and to hear the late Alandria Williams' words this morning. Alandria was the moderator, the co-moderator of our Unitarian Universalist Association, as well as a leader in many social justice realms. And we have known each other for many years since we were kids at Tennessee Valley Unitarian Universalist Church. And their words are always right on time, and seems like this morning as well. So thank you all. I wake up most mornings feeling sore and also strong. I try to take a moment when I'm in bed to stretch out my limbs, my fingers, to take a big breath and feel my belly expand. If you haven't had a chance to do that today, I invite you to maybe do a little stretch, take a little breath. I try to have just that moment to remind myself that I'm here, grateful for another day, not something to take for granted or just let slip by. These days, my muscles are usually sore, aching in different ways. Sometimes the soles of my feet are stiff from plantar fasciitis. Sometimes my back is twinging a bit. My neck and shoulders tight from working at a computer or holding tension. My jaw in need of a good relax. I don't know if any of that is true for any of you. Many of our bodies are sore from surviving COVID or trying to avoid getting it, sore from living with illness and age or work. And my heart too is often sore, a long litany of hard things in our world and in our lives. Grieving those lost to COVID and sickness and death, so many big and little losses, grieving certainty and steadiness in many moments, grieving those murdered by police and mass shootings in recent days, and the systems of oppression and violence that have hurt so many of us over generations. With sore hearts and sore bodies, many of us turn to resources outside of ourselves for comfort and wisdom. I know in my experience of our Unitarian Universalist faith, nature is a source of awe, wonder, sacredness. I find healing, release, peace that can come from long walks in the green or red or orange woods, the sound of ocean waves, the big sky. Our bodies too are part of nature, though for some of us, our relationships with them may feel more complicated than our relationship with the big sky or spring trees. Our bodies can be a source of wisdom, teaching, and grounding. As Elandria reminds us, we are embodied. Our bodies are worthy, and worthy as sources of wisdom. So let's try something. If you're up for it, always, do what you need to do and feel free to just opt out if it doesn't feel good to you. This is a little bit of a meditation or centering. Based in 3 steps. In the first step, we center in our length, feeling our head above our shoulders, our feet rooted in the ground, lengthening our spine, relaxing our shoulders, feeling the air above our head. When we center in length, we're reminded of our dignity that no one can take away from us. That dignity that, as Elandria said, is part of our worthiness. And then when we center in width, we feel that not only are we individuals with dignity, but we are connected to communities, to all the people in our lives. We center in width and we feel our edges, where we end and the people in our lives and our communities begin. And then we can center in depth, feeling our front and our back. Behind us, we sense all that has come before us through our lives. The the ancestors and history that have shaped us, shaped this moment. And then before us, in front of us, we sense all of the possibilities to come. The young people, the new generations being born, the possibility, the vision, that vision that Alandria shared of a world where we all are worthy, where we live our values out loud. In front of us is the shaping of the world around us that we will all be part of. You can take a breath and let go of that and come back to this current moment, or let your eyes open if they were closed. This centering is from a practice called generative somatics. And I want to give credit to Stacey K. Haynes and her work to understand what actually in our bodies help us transform pain and prevent harm. Thanks for trying that with me. One of the things that I'm learning from my body soreness these days is when my body needs to rest and when I need to keep pushing and striving. Later today, I'll go on a long run, something that I've done a lot more in the past few years after a very long and happy life as a non-runner and non-athlete. But I started running because it was a very cheap form of stress release that I could fit into my schedule, and that also involved getting outside, some vitamin D. And I honestly never expected that I would be able to run very far. On that journey, I've learned a lot about soreness. One thing I didn't know before I started running much is how much rest is required in order to run far. I have been so tempted to skip the rest because I'm like, more running is better for running, right? But I've learned from many exhausted runs that it turns out rest is part of our rhythm for a reason. Because our muscles need time to strengthen and repair after effort. And I've also learned that running farther than I thought I could run, pushing my limits, is also part of a rhythm for a reason. Because our muscles, whether it's the muscles in our bodies or the muscle of our heart, whether we're kneading bread dough or caring for community or calling on our elected officials to do better, need to be pushed to see how we can grow and strengthen. A quick physiology lesson that some of you may be familiar with if you are athletes or former athletes or have kiddos in your lives who are athletes. When we push ourselves a little bit, there's mild muscle strain that creates tiny injuries in our muscles, microscopic damage to muscle fibers. And scientists believe that that damage, along with inflammation that goes with those tears, is what causes the feeling of soreness. And exercise physiologists refer to that gradually increasing discomfort as delayed onset muscle soreness. And it's normal. It's a common result of physical activity that stresses the muscle tissue beyond what it's accustomed to. I often think about that while I'm running. All the little microscopic tears in my muscles. That means that when they heal, they will be even stronger. Now, as many of us know, sometimes when we're sore, it's not because we're getting stronger. It's because we're sick or because we live with soreness that doesn't have a source, or because someone hurt us or we were in an accident. And that soreness is different. that soreness deserves rest and tenderness. But there's also this soreness that comes from when we're building stamina or strength. And that's the soreness that I think can be part of our spiritual journeying, that can teach us. We are in a time when we need a lot of spiritual strength. And many of us find ourselves spiritually sore because we are pushing to try to create a world of love and justice in a time when that feels very far away. One time I got very lost on a long run. It was very, very hot, and I had not run this route before. And I had a million fears in my head. What if I run out of water? What if my phone dies and I need help? What if I just run in circles in Boston forever? And spoiler alert, I'm here with you now, so you know that I'm not still running in circles lost in Boston. But really the reason why I could keep running even when I was lost and panicking and hot and tired was because I had practiced. I had put in many days of being sore and resting, of pushing myself and taking a break, so that when I was stressed and lost, my body was able to keep moving toward my goal. My body had many, many days of keeping on going to support me. That somatic centering that we did earlier, centering in our length, in our dignity, in our width, in community, and centering in depth, all that has come before and all that's in front of us. That's one of the practices I'm trying to do more in my life. Sometimes maybe once a week or every other week, because I know it's the type of thing that will help me be spiritually strong, to process the days and months and years behind us and to face the days and months and years ahead. It's the type of spiritual practice that I know I need to put in many days of training on, so that when I'm stressed and lost spiritually, I'm still able to keep moving toward a vision of a better world. There are many other practices of the spirit. We did some of them together this morning, and you may have your own. Singing, praying, gardening, cooking, silence. So many practices of the spirit that we can put in, many days of soreness and pushing ourselves, that when we are stressed and lost spiritually, we as a collective can keep moving. Christian writer Glennon Doyle, who, depending on your circles, may be more famously known as US women's soccer team Abby Wambach's wife, wrote a book recently called Untamed that has popularized the phrase, "We can do hard things." She writes, "If you're uncomfortable, in deep pain, angry, yearning, confused," she says, "unfortunately, you don't have a problem, you have a life." She says, "Being human is not hard because you're doing it wrong, it's hard because you're doing it right." She says, "We'll never change the fact that being human is hard, but we can change our idea that it was supposed to be easy." "We can do hard things" is one of the phrases that was in my head when I was lost on that run, when I was hot and hungry and thirsty and had many miles to go. We can do hard things, I say to myself, when I doubt my worthiness, when I doubt our ability to live our values out loud. We can do hard things because we have put in the practice, because we have been sore and strong. My father, who's Vietnamese, taught me when I was growing up to keep an altar with photos of ancestors, people who have passed, as a way of remembering them and honoring them. I continue that practice today, but for about the past year, I have not added any new photos. Though many people, friends, and dear family, including Alandria, have passed. I think it's part of my own understandable unwillingness to accept that they are truly no longer with us in this world. But as spring has come, I feel closer and closer to being able to face those losses, to print their photos, to add them to my altar. My body understands the warmer and longer days, the sunshine. This morning, my heart was so sore reading the names and the stories of the people killed at the FedEx warehouse in Indianapolis. My heart was so sore seeing a photo of a church that has been providing safety and respite to protesters in Minnesota who are fighting for justice for Dante Wright, surrounded by police. My mind despairs. Does anything change? How are we so hurting and so capable of hurt? And my body has wisdom. My body tunes in to the fact that it's 50 degrees today and there's a hint of sun after it's snowing here on Friday. My body connects to another truth, that spring does come each year, even when we least expect it, even when it seems impossible, even in a pandemic. Plants bud and bloom, the sun warms. This too is a practice that I want to get stronger at, holding that life and death exist together, both true and real. Later today when I'm running, I know I'll feel both sore and strong. I'll want to quit, and I'll also know I can keep going. I'll know that I can keep going because I've practiced. This morning, I wonder if you'll take a moment to consider, what is one place where you are strong, where you have practiced, where you have days or months or years of training to support you? And maybe one place where you're sore, where you're growing, something maybe that's new for you that feels hard and unfamiliar, full of doubt. We are strong and sore people, spiritually and in body. May we continue on the journey to learn from our bodies as a source of sacredness and wisdom. May we push ourselves to be strong in heart and spirit, as that is needed now more than ever. May we learn from our soreness when we need to rest and respect our limits, and when we need to keep going, growing, moving. In Alandria's words, we arise from the pain, we arise from the grief, we arise from the limits people place on us, the limits we place on ourselves. We rise to be the children and the ancestors. We rise to be our true selves, embodying our values. May it be so, as we are strong and sore people. Amen, and blessed be.
Thank you, Reverend Elizabeth, for your very inspiring words. I was struck by the phrase, "we can do hard things," because that was something I told my children who are in their 40s and mid to late 30s when I wanted them to do something that they didn't want to do. I'd say, "You're big, you can do hard things." And I am also struck by how there are a lot of hard things. And you mentioned one about our elected officials that they need to be pushed. And there's a lot of hard things that we as citizens and caring people are needing to do. I invite comments from all here present for a short talk back. And please, if you have a thought or a comment or a question, please raise your hand and we will unmute you.
Thanks, Debbie. And I would also, if people have any thoughts on where they're finding themselves sore or strong these days, would welcome to hear folks' thoughts. And thank you for underlining the wisdom of sometimes we can do harder things than we thought.
Marcia Venus.
Richard and I are, switch over. Richard and I are so delighted to have an opportunity to see and hear Elizabeth. We've certainly followed her career, and I'm sure you can understand, having heard her thoughtful and genuine sharing of who she is and how we might live. You can understand why we keep her in our hearts.
Yeah. Good job, Elizabeth. Way to go. You were an inspiration. Thank you. Thank you.
It's very lovely to see you all through the Zoom screen.
Suzanne Bjorner. May find you 1 second, Suzanne.
She got it.
Okay.
Yep.
I was really happy that you mentioned your father and his altar and looking back at the ancestors, because I've been thinking, since we knew you were going to speak, about 8 years ago, Johannes and I took a trip to Southeast Asia and we went to Vietnam. And that was a hard thing for me to do because I was still very sore from the time years and years before that, but still within my living memory of a very difficult time when we had the war in Vietnam, Vietnamese War, or as they called it, I understand, the American War. And I wasn't sure the reception we would get, and I wasn't sure what would happen, and I wasn't sure about my feelings. But we can do things that are hard. And I was impressed tremendously by the young guide that we had, who was about 25 years old, who told us over and over again that that was in the past and they bore no ill will and that they were able to move on. They had moved on much more than I had moved on. So that blending of being able to gain strength from the hurt and to move on and to keep looking forward while we still feel the past, but don't get trapped in the past, was really important to me. And I thank you for reminding me of that.
Thanks for sharing, Suzanne. I definitely find ancestors either in my family or just like thinking of folks who have walked similar paths, definitely a source of strength in these times. My great grandmother lived through the 1918 pandemic flu, and her life was very much changed by it. She had been studying, she had been a nanny and a person who did laundry, and she had gone to study to become a nurse. But she had to quit that and move home because her brother-in-law died from the flu of that time. And so she needed to help her sister care for their kids and work in the family cafe. But she did survive. And I have thought of her many days during the past year of like, okay, like who knows what we are living through now, but there are many people who have lived through things that are both different but also similar to what we paths that we travel, and connecting with the possibility of the fact that we're not alone, that many people have faced many things. And on my dad's side, I definitely, when you have people in your family who have survived a war, you think, okay, I can find the strength to do whatever I need to do today, because somehow they found a way to get up.
Not a question, just an expression of gratitude. Thanks so much for your message. And it was just, I could just tell that you have such a skill for empathy and understanding. And I want you to know that I see that and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, thank you for offering music ministry. I feel
Of
like
course.
music is definitely one of those things that helps me both move through soreness or wanting to quit. Like I'm definitely going to be blasting all kinds of tunes when I'm doing my long run later today. And it also does really remind me of the wisdom that we hold within us. One of the things I've missed most this past year is singing in groups. I'm not a singer at all, but I also know that like just the very embodied thing of like we are making noises together with other humans and letting those vibrations be part of us, and of such an ancient thing that humans have always done.
Yes.
Yeah.
I definitely relate to that. That has been a tough thing.
Well, Reverend Nguyen, I want to echo Michael's words and just again thank Marcia and Richard Venus for pointing all of us your way. I can't imagine having had a better mentor than Richard. And there's bits and pieces of him in you I can recognize, your gentle spirit, but great wisdom. And thank you again, Marcia and Richard, and thank you, Reverend Nguyen, for speaking to us.
Yeah, thanks for your kind words. And I am, so many things are like, wow, how did we end up here? Like, oh, how did my family end up in Dayton, Ohio, and my parents attending a youth congregation, and Richard being our minister, and also thank goodness for the ways the path unfolds.
Thank you all for your comments. And if you would like to stay after the service for a few minutes, perhaps we can continue our conversation. Right now, it's time for the sharing of our wealth. Please, if you are a guest, do not feel as though you need to contribute. Your presence is gift enough. If you are a member, you can give in many different ways. You can fill out and send a check. You can set up automatic donations directly from your bank, or use the instant online giving app Givelify. And so now I will ask Michael to play the video. Keep on moving forward.
We're not getting any audio, Michael.
Gonna keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Gonna keep on moving forward. Never turning back. Never turning back. Gonna keep on loving proudly. Keep on loving proudly. Gonna keep on loving proudly. Never turning back. Never turning back. Gonna reach across our border. Reach across our border. Reach across our border. Reach across our border. Gonna reach across our borders. Never turning back. Never turning back. Gonna stop these wars together. Stop these wars together. Gonna stop these wars together. Never turning back. Never turning back. Gonna keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Gonna keep on moving forward. Never turning back. Never turning back.
Thank you, Michael. You have a knack for choosing the most appropriate songs.
I didn't actually choose that one, but thank you. That
Oh.
was that was actually Elizabeth. I just happened to have done that, and I did it right at the start of the pandemic, and I was like, wow, that's so fitting. That's perfect. I'm just gonna use that same video I made over a year ago.
Reverend Nguyen suggested that song.
Yeah.
Well, like minds. That's all I can say. Thank you. So now it's time for our sharing our joys and our sorrows. This is a spiritual time where you may share a brief joy or sorrow. So please, if you will, if you have something you'd like to share, raise your hand and you will be unmuted. Doug.
Yes, I so appreciate Reverend Nguyen's message this morning, soaring strong, and the Gathering in Northern Hills has been my source of strength over the last month and a half after the passing of my mom. And I can't say how much it means to me, the thoughts of encouragement and support and prayer, the cards and the phone calls and expressions of support have meant a great deal. And all of you have been my source of strength. And my soreness is much better because of all of you. Thank you. That is my joy.
Bob? Bob Freer? We need to unmute him. Can we unmute Bob?
The fact that my granddaughter was just named valedictorian of her graduating class.
And tell the rest of the story, Bob.
That's all.
Well, I will tell the rest of the story. Bob was also valedictorian of his class. So the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. Thank you for sharing that, Bob. Nada?
Okay, I was class valedictorian, high school we're talking, 1966, here in Rising Sun, Indiana, where I am currently in my little church. And I always brag that I was valedictorian, but I always add out of 43 kids.
You have a lot of, Bob?
Nada, I've got you beat by 12 people. There was 54 in my graduating class. But there's 400 people in my granddaughter's graduating class.
Wow.
Good.
A lot of effort put forth by these when you were young and today as well, and your young granddaughter. Congratulations. Suzanne?
Well, I had a joy this week, and that was that we've read about the sprucing up of the Memorial Garden, and so I said I'd like to go down and see it. And I did. I was taken by a friend, and we met a friend there, and we walked through the Memorial Garden, and it's really beautiful. And I thank everybody who has contributed to that in very many different ways. So, and I urge everybody else to go down there sometime and just take a look at it. Thank you. It was a joy.
Well, I will drop a metaphysical stone and a metaphysical bowl of water for all of the joys and the sorrows that we are keeping in our hearts today. So I will turn the stage, the highlight over to Michael again for our final song, The Fire of Commitment.
On the light of days remembered burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from fear. passion need to call us on our way. When we live with deep assurance on the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin.
Reverend Elizabeth, before I turn it over to you for the final words, the closing words, I would like to offer our condolences on the loss of your friend Alondria and other losses that you mentioned you had over the year. I think that it must be a very heavy loss. And I'm very sorry for your loss, and I'm sorry for us too, for her poetry, additional poetry that she could have shared with us. And thank you for sharing that with us. And so I now will turn the program over to Reverend Elizabeth Nguyen for the closing words.
Thank you, Debbie. You know, many of us have weathered many losses over these months and years. Alandria's words, we arise from the limits people place on us and the limits we place on ourselves. So here we are, strong and sore, sore and strong, listening to the muscles of our spirits, our hearts, and our bodies, keeping moving forward together. Freedom is coming. We are moving forward together with soreness and with strength. Amen and blessed be.
Please feel free to stay for a few minutes of